All right, I know it's super creepy that we can track from a marketing perspective every movement of each visitor on a website, every movement of every subscriber to a newsletter, every video watched. These details are available, and as a business owner or an executive, you need to understand that these are not just weird, but they could be decision making tools. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. So, we talk about critical thinking and the ability to use quality information to make decisions that give you an advantage in the marketplace, that position you as an expert, that otherwise makes you the person of choice for new opportunities. And I just love it when marketing automation works. Marketing automation is the what's behind the scenes when you purchase products or services from a website. Like for example, Amazon, when you purchase products from Amazon, they'll suggest additional products not only based on the product you purchase, but based on your user demographics, who you are as a person. Now, every time you enter information on the internet, you should expect that they're capturing details about you. In my Internet Invisible program, and when we work with high income and high net worth individuals who want to be invisible on the internet. So, for example, if you're a business owner and you're doing competitive analysis on a competitor site, you don't want all your users' traffic, you assigned your assistant to go out and look for something. You don't want all that to show up on your competitor's website because, again, they can see where the traffic is coming from, where who was the traffic coming from. So if it's a corporate address, they'll know what company it comes from. Like Wolverine Boots, I know that there are marketing executives from Wolverine Boots on my newsletter, and they're there for a specific reason, but I can see the evolving nature of passing it along to other people in the company. I had some folks from IBM that were on my newsletter, and I reached out to the individuals and I said, "Hey, do you know so and so over in the marketing department?" And they were like, "No, I don't know the person in the marketing department." This was a senior level executive. I said, "Well, look, they've been on my newsletter longer than you have." And then I reached out to the other person and said, "Hey, do you know this executive?" I connected these two people because of the relationship value, that they were both interested in the same topic. Now that improves my value to them because now they can discuss the topics and they can discuss the information that we're putting out in the newsletter. They can form their own little study group, but it's something that I could learn from the web analytics that was available. So today I was sending an email to a newsletter subscriber because I do answer the questions you guys sent in. And he went to my website and bought a dollar product. Now, I have these dollar products on purpose. The dollar menu is there to get you tips and insights for stuff that's useful, kind of reference pages, but also to weed out the tire kickers. These reports I used to give away for free, or I'd print them out when I was doing a speaking event. I've got hundreds of these things, so I'm not trying to be an Amazon bestseller. However, what I am trying to do as a marketing professional, as someone who wants to serve a customer base, is I want to use the behavioral interactions in order to identify who's a player and who's not. So let's say you're an executive in an office and you want to figure out in your business who is the best middle manager for perhaps a director position, who can influence their staff, who can promote the company culture, who can connect with new customers in a meaningful way. And so you would set up what is called like a lead generation piece to get them to raise their hand. So you could do a contest, for example. In my case, it could be a contest. It could be what's called an ask campaign. It can be a positioning newsletter. It might be bridge content tied to a lead piece. It might be a special event or a conference to see who shows up. It doesn't matter what the tool is. The key, what you want to figure out, is when you put out a call for information, who is it that shows up with valuable information? So there's both an interactive basis, but also a quality basis in the response. So, if you want to be more influential in your business, you need to surround yourself with people who advocate or move forward your objectives or the objectives of the organization. So, you put out a contest or a request for new ideas, and you have specific criteria for these new ideas. It isn't stop you in the hallway and talk about it, it isn't sending you a quick email. It might be write a 2-page summary and fax it to my office at this number. Now, you wouldn't give your private fax, you'd give just your regular fax and then have somebody sort these things out. But the barrier for entry makes it more difficult for somebody to come in and engage with you. It demonstrates their willingness to invest in the activity. And then because they're not just jotting off an email, it requires them in a limited amount of space to have a meaningful interaction. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, would it just be easier for me to get an email? Yes. And you would get emails, but we want quality over quantity. So I used to give away, and I still do kind of give away free special reports, or I might have replied to a prospect or replied to a client, and I might repurpose that message as a kind of tip sheet, and I would give those away for free. So there would just be a link on the website to a PDF file that someone could download, and they would use the materials, and I wouldn't even know who they were. So not only would I not know who they were, I wouldn't be able to follow up. I wouldn't be able to know if they got any results. I wouldn't be able to know if they're players or they're just collecting brochures. Now, within those materials, I started adding what they call bounce backs. So in the materials, I'd say, hey, if you've got an idea related to this that you think I should take a look at, let me know. I might say, if you have any questions, let me know. I might say, if you want additional information or schedule an appointment, let me know. So this bounce back is lead generation. You can use this in your business itself, following up with past clients, following up with existing customers, following up with your employees or on specific initiatives. But the barrier to entry has to be a little high, because here's what happened. I would get thousands of people to download these reports. I wouldn't know who they were because there was no opt-in. So I added the opt-in. That slowed things down a little bit. Now hundreds of people are downloading these reports, and they're opting in and they're contacting me. But the barrier to entry was just an email address. So I ended up with thousands of email addresses on my newsletter. And a lot of folks will say, well, that's a measure of success. I would argue it's not. Again, quality over quantity. So I'd get these thousands of people on the email, and then I'd hold a webinar and I'd hold an event, and I'd feel like I've done something because I'd have 50 people on a webinar. I'd have 70 people on a webinar. I'd do my little training spiel. And guess what I did not have at the end of the day? I did not have a behavioral commitment in the form of an order. Now you might say, well, I'm the executive of the company. I don't need a behavioral commitment on the form of the order. Well, you get paid by the effective work of these individuals. So if your barrier to entry is very low for them to perhaps come into your, open door policy, and now there's nothing wrong with an open door policy. However, you need to have it in such a way that people know they're being heard and that they're not disrupting your daily activities. So your open door policy is schedule an appointment. And so you can be prepared for the meeting to submit a one-page summary of what you'd like to talk about. And now, again, this is completely against the popular management techniques, but we're not about popular management. We're about effective management, and we're about building business relationships that produce results for your organization. An individual who's going to make a suggestion or provide feedback and provides it in writing, who then turns around because they felt they were not heard and starts their own company that competes with you, has left behind evidence that that idea originated in your organization. So you didn't think about that, did you? Writing it down on paper makes them think about it because they're now taking it out of their mind, and now they have an idea, maybe a list of questions. Now when they meet with you, they're more effective and you can better understand the idea, and so that the good ideas get funded versus the ideas that get shelved. That individual feels like that there's a barrier to entry, that's fine, so they don't respond. They hold that idea within themselves because their idea is too good. That's fine too. Because the idea was so good in their brain that they can't convey it to somebody else. So it was more of an emotional idea rather than a practical idea. The communications that we use is mostly based in marketing. It's promoting yourself as a credible expert, promoting yourself as a leader, but it's also promoting those individuals within your organization who have great ideas, who are able to articulate those ideas, who are able to work on projects within a defined scope. Because what I often find with very successful executives, very successful business owners, is that when an employee comes up with an idea and you get the synopsis of the idea, and it's a great idea. If you then ask them to create a project plan or describe how they will implement that idea, you can simply write a check and that money will keep coming back. Now, it's not just about money, it's also about the individual feeling like they've been heard in a meaningful way because we now have this synopsis idea. So, for example, I found a flaw in a compliance system, and my manager had me write up a brief. So, I wrote up the brief. Here's the problem we saw, here's the potential root cause, here's the potential risks. Then they said, well, great. We want to fix that problem. How would you propose fixing it? Write it up. And I wasn't bothered by writing it up because I understand the technique. If I can't write it up, how am I going to implement it? So I wrote that up. They funded a team of 4 people. We solved the problem that saved the organization $100 million. Now, again, this is a massive organization. The compliance system was tied to laws, rules, and regulations. You may not produce that, but for clients that have implemented this, they produced $1 million, $2 million, $3 million because sometimes your employees have great ideas that if you can help them articulate the ideas, you now have captured the information that you need to get results. Now, I've seen executives that have binders of these ideas over the years, and they'll flip through them when they're looking for a new idea. Now, you still want to give credit where credit's due, but in the IT world, in the technical world of marketing and sales, this is so automated that I can tell when somebody subscribed to my newsletter, which podcast they came from, how much money they just paid, what products they're interested in, what pages they're viewing, what mailing list are they on, how long have they been on the mailing list, what other things do they look at on the internet. Now I can tailor content specifically for their needs. So then we can do conversion rate optimization on their website or in their sales funnels. We can optimize their sales and marketing when it comes to putting products and services in front of buyers. We can look at executive performance. So if you have a bunch of middle managers and we go through and we look at their activities, now we want activities tied to work at hand, not necessarily how many hours they work, what websites they go to. This can go too far. There is a lot of information. But if we're looking at relevant information, we can even dashboard some of this stuff so that you can make better business decisions. Again, the tools are readily available. You may already have the tools. The key is implementing those tools in a meaningful way, not the next latest and shiny tool. Everybody wants the next tool. When I was doing this for a couple companies, they always wanted the latest tool. We could take the tools they had with the right methodology and approach and implement it so that we knew when a customer crossed the threshold. So one client of mine had Lillian Vernon. So they had a catalog sale, they had a telephone sale, and they had a online web sale. The web sale was done through an e-commerce platform. The call in was done through a call center, and then the catalog orders were done through order forms that came through the mail. On the back end, we ran massive sync and sort scripts that would merge all those orders together to build us a single profile of that customer. And then we'd be able to use a little bit of machine learning. They had a big old IBM mainframe, and we would be able to identify predictively what products would what segments of the list buy next. Do you see how powerful this is? Now, my specialty is implementing this in laws, rules, and regulations, your risk management, your compliance and controls, and then also similar methodologies in the business development side. You can use this on human resources when it comes to performance and other things. That's not as important to me as the making sure your process is consistently controlling for risks, and then in your sales and marketing processes, you're inherently improving your conversion rates. Now, you may not think those two things overlap, but it is similar methodology of, again, understanding the behavioral changes in a segment of individuals. So you want your managers to be more effective? Ask them how can they be more effective? Ask them to write up a little briefing. Could be just one page, could be less than 400 words. It could be an essay contest. And you can pay them a bonus. You can say, we're gonna get together in a meeting. I'm gonna go through these. It'll all be completely anonymous. I'm gonna read your suggestions, and then as a group, we're gonna discuss them, and then we're gonna pick a few ideas. And the ideas that get picked, they get $1,000 each. Now, everybody who submits something is gonna get to come out to the meeting, and if you don't submit anything, you can't come out to the planning session. Now, you can also have grading criteria and other things. You could depend, you don't want everybody to show up to a planning session. It'll be complete chaos. But my bigger point is here. You're using metrics to identify who's engaged and who's not. You're capturing information that's useful for compliance and tracking. So on my email newsletters, my compliance is for canned spam and permissions and privacy. In your business, the compliance is if that individual runs off of that idea and competes against you, or they uh, gather up these ideas and claim they are theirs when they are not. Because you'll often find somebody will submit an idea and then someone else will catch you in the hallway, like their manager, and say, "Oh, this is a great idea." And you'll now know where the idea originated from. Again, we want facts, we want accuracy, we want effectiveness, not volume. So that barrier to entry gives kind of washes out the people that are just skating by. Can you see how this kind of technique puts you in a position to have valuable and useful information to make decisions? Can you see how some of this can be automated in how you interact with your staff? And also how the slight barrier to entry can help you manage your time a little bit better. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we focus on how we can help you be more effective, how we can improve your peak performance, and how we can leverage business relationships for profits. If you have a question about what I've asked here today, visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. I'm going to know where you came from, what podcast you listened to. I'm going to know all the details that are necessary for me to then take your written question and give you a really good answer. But we have more newsletters, coaching, other resources to help you implement this. Because again, knowing that you're being tracked is one thing, but using the tracking that's available internally or externally through your business processes or structure or through how you interact with the people around you, that's the real power. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we help you transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast.